It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Happy Halloween, and I should also say Happy All Saints Day, too, because that's coming up on Monday. I hope the fall season has been treating you well and that you've managed to get out for some fall fishing and hunting. Say what you will about social media, especially sites like Facebook and Instagram, but they do have one redeeming quality. That's the ability to share photos of your trophies and days of field and on the water with your friends. I'm still on the mend with my broken leg, but I've been able to live vicariously through others, and there's been some real nice deer and elk taken over the last few weeks across our United States, along with some hog bass, monster walleye, and stout salmon. Speaking of hunting success, we'll be talking to Bo Martonic in just a minute. He's the host of the podcast East Meets West Hunt. He's been deer hunting in both New York and Pennsylvania already this season, and he's done quite well. I can't wait to hear about these hunts. As for fishing, the Toyota Series Championship, put on by Major League Fishing, is taking place at Pickwick Lake in Tennessee today, and we'll be talking with a very well-known angler who's fishing it, Keith Combs. Keith works with Shimano and put on a great seminar through their online Shimano school earlier this week about fall crankbait fishing. We'll cover some of the high points of that seminar towards the end of our show today and tell you how you can see the entire seminar online and get schooled on crankbait fishing in the process. Another guest you'll hear from today is Aaron Weiss. He's the Deputy Director for the Center of Western Priorities, and they just put out a study called the Camping Crunch. I think everyone knows how popular camping has become during the COVID pandemic, but as you'll hear from Aaron, we are loving some of our public lands to death, and quite frankly, we need more campgrounds and infrastructure for campers. Last week, we told you about the difficulty firearms manufacturers are having keeping up with all the demand that's out there, a problem compounded by the current supply chain crisis, even for firearms that are made in America like the ones made by Henry Repeating Arms. This week, we'll be talking to Kent Brown. He's the host of Ultimate Bass Radio, heard on KHTK, AM 1140 out of Sacramento, California, early Saturday mornings, a show which also streams online across the nation. Kent is also the West Coast Regional Sales Manager for the White River Marine Group, the company that has under its umbrella boat manufacturers like Tracker Marine, Ranger Boats, Nitro, Triton, and Mako, among others. We'll be chatting with Kent about how long it's going to take you to get a boat right now from the manufacturer if you buy one, and whether it's quicker to get a fiberglass or aluminum boat in your garage. We'll also explore the reasons for the huge price increase in both new and used boats. If you're in the market for a boat, you won't want to miss this conversation. Before we go any further, I want to remind you that we are giving away a rifle case and snazzy-looking ball cap from Henry Repeating Arms. They're both logoed. They're perfect for your Henry rifle, whether you're buying a .22 or maybe a deer rifle, because Henry Repeating Arms has a number of models that will fit the bill for both whitetail, blacktail, and mule deer in all the popular calibers. Check out the selection of those rifles at henryusa.com and enter for a chance to win this rifle case and ball cap by going to our Facebook page at America Outdoors Radio. Simply like and follow the page. That's step one. Then go to the post thread where we've got the contest and just let us know what state you're from. That's all you have to do to enter. But if you want a bonus entry, also let us know what station you're listening to right now. That way, you've got 2 chances to win, and we will draw a winner, one lucky winner, after our last broadcast this weekend. Our next guest on America Outdoors Radio is Bo Martonic. He is the man behind East Meets West Outdoors. He hosts a really good podcast you should listen to. He also has a blog. He does videos. And when it comes to deer hunting and elk hunting, he knows a lot about it, and he's been having a great season. Bo, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be back on.
Well, I've been stalking you on Facebook, and I noticed that you tagged out on a nice buck in New York this past weekend. I understand this was your first deer hunt in New York, too. Tell our listeners more about this.
Yeah, so I tagged out in Pennsylvania a few weeks ago on opening day and decided to go to New York, as that's a neighboring state that I've never been to hunt, and just picked a piece of public land that was kind of big woods, more mountainous type in the Appalachian range that I'm used to hunting, and went up. And on the first day in, I was just more so just trying to scout the area, and it was raining a little bit, so I was hunting from the ground and just worked my way along these ridges and ended up catching a buck feeding on some acorns on a ridge, and put a stalk on him and ended up getting a perfect opportunity at 38 yards, and he fell within sight.
38 yards? That is a
Yep.
great spot and stock. Just how big was his whitetail?
He wasn't a very big whitetail. It was a younger buck. As far as score-wise or anything, I haven't measured him, but it was a 7-point buck. And I was there more so just for that experience, and my goal was to shoot any legal buck that made me happy at that point. So I was just excited to be in a new state.
Well, I think it's fantastic. And I love the fact that you actually managed to pull this off without any scouting. You know, it's funny. I think most of us, when we think New York, we immediately think New York City. And you don't think of the great deer hunting the state of New York has available. There's a lot of people I know, to include the executive editor of Field and Stream, that goes to New York every year because the deer hunting's so good there.
Yeah, and the area I went to is low deer density, which I knew that going into it. I knew I had to find the food. So I was just working my way around the ridges, and all I was finding was old acorns, nothing fresh. And I ended up finding one bench that had the food on it, and that's where the buck was. The area had, from my only one day of being there seemed to be quite a bit of hunting pressure. I found quite a few tree stands on the top and everything, and just had to work those side hills where people don't like to walk as much, and found one.
Well, very well done. Speaking of well done, you took a massive whitetail in your home state of Pennsylvania, like you said earlier this year. Let's talk about this, because this one, there was definitely some scouting involved. So I want you to tell not just about the hunt, but what led up to the hunt and this meeting with this trophy whitetail.
Yeah, so in Pennsylvania, I look at things a little bit differently. When I go to other states, typically I'm more of an opportunity type hunter, but since I live in Pennsylvania, I get a lot of time to be able to scout, and I put a lot of time and focus and energy on hunting specific deer. And I found this buck in another big woods type region, and I found this buck last year on my trail camera, and I figured he was a 4 or 5 year old deer, a beautiful 9-point, big body, and he had some patterns that aren't really common for big woods type areas. He was going to this fresh logging cut and coming out, not like a daily basis, but a few times a week I'd have him on different trails in the early season, late season. So in the spring when I was scouting, I'd found both of his sheds, and I knew that this buck was, I was assuming that this buck would be using kind of some of the similar trail systems, feeding on some of that new browse coming up in those clear cuts, come this hunting season. And I'd keep a very detailed log of data of trail camera photos along with the weather, the wind direction, what they're doing. And the first morning of the Pennsylvania season, we had a pretty cold morning. It was about 40 degrees for this time of year. That's very cold compared to what it had been.
And we're talking archery season too, aren't we?
Yeah, we're talking archery season. Yep.
Okay, go on.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to push in and go after this deer. The wind was a southwest wind, and this buck liked to move on a specific trail, according to my trail cameras, on a southwest wind. But since that was in his favor, I found a tree that was right on the creek bank, which pulled my thermals down the stream rather than in the regular predominant wind direction. So I set up in this tree and ended up having that buck come in that morning, opening morning at 8 a.m. It was the only deer that I saw and where I got my opportunity.
Great scouting, great planning, great execution. Absolutely love this. Folks, if you want to find out more about these hunts, you got to go to Bo's website. It's eastmeetswesthunt.com. And that's the home of East Meets West Outdoors. Bo, like I said, he's got a podcast that is really worth listening to. He's got blogs. He's got videos. He's got a Facebook page, too. And you can keep up with his hunting and learn about deer hunting and elk hunting yourself by going to the Facebook page, East Meets West Outdoors, or to his website, eastmeetswesthunt.com. Bo, thanks so much for sharing this with us today. I love these stories, and congratulations on your success this season.
Thanks so much for having me on, John. Good luck to you.
Country hunters and anglers. You may have heard of us, but what are we about? BHA is the voice for your wild public lands, waters, and wildlife. From national level policy work to boots on the ground projects like public land cleanups, we work across North America to uphold the legacy of our public lands and waters, as well as your opportunity to hunt, fish, and recreate on them. Stand up for public lands and waters and become a BHA member today. Visit backcountryhunters.org.
Why book at Sportsman's Cove Lodge?
Why is Alaska like no other place on Earth? It hasn't changed in thousands of years.
From the way you get here on a float plane to the way you go out with the guides and the boats, it's just a professional experience.
And I said, this is as good as it gets. I said, if you can't catch fish here, you can't catch fish anywhere.
Your experience with us will leave you speechless.
Book now at alaskasbestlodge.com.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
Next up on America Outdoors Radio, let's talk about camping. A new study has been published by the Center for Western Priorities showing that camping on public lands has skyrocketed over the last decade, and as you might imagine, it's spiked during this COVID pandemic. With us here to tell you more about this is Aaron Weiss. He's the Deputy Director for the Center of Western Priorities. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, why don't you give our listeners a thumbnail sketch of this study?
Sure. So we looked at available data on camping reservations, that is to say reservable campgrounds on national public lands. That includes national parks, national monuments, in the East Coast, a lot of Army Corps of Engineers campsites, all federal agencies, including national forests as well, BLM lands where there are a handful of reservable campgrounds. And what we found is that among those campsites, the ones that you can reserve in advance on recreation.gov, the number of campgrounds that are filling up, especially in the peak summer months, has increased dramatically over the last 6 years. And in fact, those camping reservations are increasing faster than overall visitation to our national parks and public lands. So the takeaway here is that we need more campsites. Interest in our public lands, visits to our public lands have been going up even pre-pandemic. And of course, the pandemic introduced a whole new set of Americans to the outdoors because what else were we all going to do in the summer of 2020?
Right.
So this data confirms what we've been hearing anecdotally, which is, yeah, our public lands are overcrowded. And this is really a call to action for members of Congress and also for the Park Service and our public lands management agencies that we really do need to invest strongly in campgrounds and other amenities for visitors so that we aren't loving our public lands to death.
I guess the good news about this is that more people have become invested in protecting our public lands, because when you live in an urban area and you don't go camping in these areas, you don't appreciate them, and you're kind of disconnected in terms of caring about them and whether legislation passes or proposed legislation passes to protect them. But once you start spending time on our public lands, you get a lot more invested in protecting them. So that's the good news. But like you said, we really are loving them to death. What are some of the other impacts when it comes to loving these to death in terms of the infrastructure issues that our public lands are facing?
Well, certainly you see when national park campgrounds fill up, the surrounding lands fill up, and those are often not run by the National Park Service. They're run by the Forest Service. They're run by the Bureau of Land Management. These are national monuments, national forests, things like that. And those are generally agencies that have multiple use missions, of course. They manage lands for grazing, for forestry, and also recreation. And so these are the agencies where we're seeing a real serious need to invest in those services, in the campgrounds, in the hardening of certain areas that are necessary so that they can handle the influx of visitors while still preserving the land for future generations. We don't see the numbers specifically in here regarding dispersed camping, of course, because there's not a reservation system for that. But it only follows, of course, that once a reservable campground has filled up, you end up pushing more people into the backcountry, into the dispersed camping, which is great. Having more Americans have that more natural experience is important, but that also means you're sending Americans who may not have done that before, who don't know the tenets of leave no trace camping. So there does become a need for more education, for more services, for making sure that they have places to safely pack everything out. So the interest is wonderful. The more people who experience our public lands in person rather than just seeing them on Instagram, that's where it's at. But we have to make sure that we are growing the funding and the services to accommodate that increase. Otherwise, you just end up with problems of either irresponsible camping or campers who are out there who simply don't have the facilities and service to take care of them.
Right. And I think you touched on something really important here. I have certainly noticed this in the last couple of years. I mean, a lot of new campers have joined us out there on our public lands, and I'm certainly seeing a lot more issues with garbage. I'm seeing damage to public lands through off-road use, and it goes exactly to what you said. A lot of these people, they're either irresponsible, they don't understand the ethic of leave no trace. They don't understand the ethic of pack it out. So education is part of it, to be sure, but what else should, the Secretary of the Interior, the man who's in charge of the Department of Agriculture, what should they be doing to accommodate all of these new campers? And you kind of hinted at this when you said, we need more campgrounds, but it's not just easy to say, well, we need more campgrounds. Exactly what should they be doing in terms of either legislation or using money that's already available to expand opportunities?
Well, they need to be looking at where the needs are. And certainly we know that national parks are hubs for conservation. So that's the place to start. And when you look at this report that we put out, some fabulous mapping that our data associate Tyler McIntosh did, you can see on these maps the big hubs around national parks that fill up first, and then the surrounding areas that are the next to fill up. So those are the places to start investing, both in terms of capacity and also in terms of awareness. Making sure that folks know, hey, you can have a wonderful experience in Zion or in Arches, but there are also wonderful experiences to be had in the nearby public land. And those are places like Grand Staircase Escalante that was just restored by President Biden. It's a very large monument. There's a lot of room out there, but as there is more attention on places like Grand Staircase Escalante and on Bears Ears, there becomes a need to update their management plans to adjust to those influx of people, to make sure that those public lands are enjoyed, but also enjoyed in a way that makes sure our kids and grandkids are going to be able to enjoy them.
All right. Starting to run short on time here, but before we go, why don't you briefly tell us about the mission of the Center for Western Priorities and a website where folks can find out more?
Sure. So we are an advocacy organization focused on public lands and energy use, primarily in the Mountain West. We advocate for land protections, including national monuments, national wildlife refuges, and we advocate for smart uses of multiple use lands, including Bureau of Land Management lands, Forest Service lands. We want to make sure that those lands are being managed in a way that puts science first, that makes sure that they are being managed in a way that ensures access for all Americans, especially for hunters and anglers, to be able to get out there and enjoy our public lands and know that they are going to be there, not just for them, but for their kids and grandkids. You can learn more, of course, at westernpriorities.org. You can find that Camping Crunch report right on the front page as well. And if I could also plug a podcast, we host a podcast called The Landscape, my colleague Kate Gretzinger and I, all about public lands issues. So feel free to find that on our website as well.
Okay, the website again, westernpriorities.org. Check out the Camping Crunch Study. Check out that podcast. Our public lands, we are loving them maybe a little bit too much. Aaron, thanks for bringing this to our attention on America Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking. From camp stove to cast iron, from smokers to grills, Camp Chef will change the way you cook outdoors. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com or visit your local sporting goods store and get cooking. Whether you're serving breakfast in the backcountry or barbecue on the back patio, savor the simplicity with Camp Chef. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Looking for the perfect gift for the hunter or shooter in your life? Give them a Henry. These American-made lever-action guns shoot straight and have a classic Western look. Choose from a .22 caliber Henry for plinking, a heavier caliber for hunting, or even a shotgun for birds and small game. Better still, these guns come in all sorts of finishes, covering everything from use in the field or on the range to showing off the best-looking firearm in your zip code. Henry rifles and shotguns come with a lifetime guarantee. And if you help need deciding what Henry is right for you, just ask. The award-winning customer service team at henryusa.com will be happy to help you out. So, go to henryusa.com and order a free catalog and holiday gift guide. Then, find what you like, look for a dealer near you, and get a gift that will put a real smile on someone's face this holiday season. Start searching for your Henry now at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com.
With an Evinrude motor and Minn Kota troller and Lowrance fish finder or two, we push off the dock just before 5 o'clock and go sailing off into the blue. We really don't care what size.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. Last week, we talked to Dan Clayton Luce with Henry Repeating Arms about the difficulties of acquiring a firearm for Christmas. Now, we're going to talk to Kent Brown. He's the host of Ultimate Bass Radio, which you can hear every Saturday morning in the Sacramento area from 5 to 6 a.m. on KHTK, AM 1140. He's also the regional sales manager for the White River Marine Group. He knows a whole lot about boat availability. Kent, great to have you back in the air.
John, it's good to hear from you again, man. It's always fun when we get to catch up.
Well, it is. You know, the last time we got to catch up in person was at the Bassmaster Classic down at Fort Worth, Texas. And I was talking to some of the manufacturers, and I was finding out that if you ordered a new bass boat from some of them, and this is back in June, you're going to be waiting about 8 months until you actually got it. Has that situation changed, or has it gotten worse or better?
Well, we'd like to think it's changed. And, obviously with White River Marine, we build a lot more than just fiberglass bass boats. We build all of the Bass Pro Shops line of boats, and that's really everything from, Sun Tracker, Regency, Ranger Pontoon, Ranger Aluminum, Ranger Fiberglass, Nitro, Tracker, Triton, Mako, Tahoe. I mean, we're pretty well versed with all the different brands. So, but referencing fiberglass bass boats, no, it's not an 8-month thing. Right now, for the most part, if you were a retail customer and you ordered and I'm using a loose Nitro Ranger Triton for us, obviously, if you order one of those fiberglass boats and say, hey, I'm ready, I want one, here's my deposit, we're looking probably having you a boat right now in your garage by the first couple weeks of January.
Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. What about aluminum boats, whether it be a bass boat or a pontoon boat or otherwise?
Well, that's another story. Aluminum boats are out a little bit farther with some of the brands for sure. And I'll be honest with you, John, it's not the aluminum that's such the problem right now in getting our boats built. A lot of it is foam and furniture and, a lot of the components that are going into it. Once again, that we've learned a term in the last, 2 years. It's called supply chain. We didn't know about supply chain until about 18 months ago.
It's really interesting to me. I thought for sure you're going to tell me it was issues with producing the aluminum because of the high demand for it. I didn't know it was the components that were holding you up, especially things like seats and foam. That's really interesting to me. So got to wait a little bit longer for the aluminum. Another thing I've definitely noticed over the last year is the jump in prices in boats. And I'm seeing about a 20% increase in new boats. Is this just because of supply and demand, or are the manufacturer's costs going up and they're being passed on to the consumer?
Yes, all the above. All the above. Exactly what you're looking at. Raw materials have definitely gone up, whether it's, the petroleum-based products that are in fiberglass boats and the resins and those types of things that are not only a shortage of them, but the price has gone up. We all know what wood has done. We all know what steel and aluminum and a lot of those products have done. So, yeah, it is definitely costing more to build the boats. And another thing, that I think a lot of people don't realize is, guys today with a modern bass boat, John, they have more money in optional electronics than my very first bass boat cost me.
Well, and that brings up another topic, the options. I have noticed on some of the White River Marine websites, I think Tracker Marine in particular, used to be you could really trick out a tracker boat with all sorts of different things. And a couple months ago, I noticed that the options were extremely limited, just maybe half a dozen options, very basic. And that was it. What's going on there?
Well, and looking at one of the things we've done on, some of the smaller boats, yes, that's exactly right. But you get in some of our bigger boats, 175, the 190, the 195, all those boats have what we call a tournament edition package that you can order in. And it's not an a la carte. You're not just selecting a depth finder or a trolling motor. We're taking a whole package of, electronics front and rear, upgrading trolling motor, batteries, battery chargers, all those things, and putting them into the boat as, one package, as a tournament package. So those are still available, but what we're also seeing more and more with the guy who really wants to trick that boat out, whether it be power poles, multiple electronics, a lot of those things, we're seeing that coming from our dealers, and we're doing more dealer install for a lot of those options.
Interesting. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense then if you're going the dealer route instead of the manufacturer route. Turning from new boats to used boats, boy, I'm seeing some boats that are 10 years old that they're asking new boat prices for. The demand must be going through the roof on that side of the house, too.
You obviously haven't tried to trade your pickup in lately and found out that it's worth a lot more than you thought it was either. But, yeah, that is what's going on for sure. And, a lot of people always think that, well, you sell new boats, you don't want to talk about used boats. And, John, the reality of it is if that customer doesn't sell his old boat and get it out of the garage or the side yard, he is not going to buy a new boat. So we want that used boat market to be just as strong as the new boat market. And the used boat market is good. And let's face it, we have more people now that are enjoying the outdoors, getting outside, getting the kids out, discovering fishing, boating, all these things. And they're exploring the used market as well, which has driven the price up.
Well, it sounds like this is a difficult time to be buying a boat, whether it's a new boat or a used boat, unless you have quite a bit of disposable income and patience. Any suggestions for boat buyers beyond that?
No, John, and it's always a great time to buy a boat. That's kind of what we want people to know. It's a great time to buy a boat and to get out. Yes, boats cost money. They're just like doing a lot of different things, motorcycles, what have you. But it's a great time to buy a boat and to get out. We have great fishing throughout the country and more people getting involved in it. The thing of it is really we have, with White River Marine, we have so many boats that will fit so many different budgets. We can get you into a ready to go on the water aluminum bass boat for around $12,000. We can have you in a brand new Ranger Z520R for considerably more than that.
And I do want to talk about that briefly. Ranger did come out with a brand new model, didn't they?
Yeah, boat is really, really being well perceived. They're very, very happy with the boat and just super happy with, what's going on out there with that boat. A lot of the pros have them on order. It's got a lot of great new features.
All right. What is the website that folks should go to if they want to check out the entire lineup of White River Marine Group boats?
Well, each of our boat companies have their own website. So whatever brand you're looking for, rangerboats.com, trackerboats.com, tritonboats.com, nitroboats.com, each of those companies have their own set webpage, and that's where you can go in and find your closest dealer, build your dream boat, and order it right there.
Well, there you go, folks. Another website to go to, trackermarine.com. That'll get you to a lot of those websites, too. And now we've got to talk about your show a little bit, because you are the bass guru as far as I'm concerned, especially when it comes to the West Coast. If our listeners want to tune in to Ultimate Bass Radio, again, they can tune in Saturday mornings from 5 to 6 a.m. on KHTK AM 1140 out of Sacramento, California. But you can also tune into it as a streaming edition, too. How do folks do that?
Well, live stream right to the KHTK app. You can do that. KHTK website, KHTK.com. And, we are podcasting the show as well. If you're an Apple user, it's pretty simple. Go to that purple microphone, click search, type in Ultimate Bass Radio, and we'll send the show to you every Saturday morning, and all you have to do is hit play.
Ultimate Bass Radio, folks. It's a great show. You should listen to it. And congratulations, by the way, Kent, on doing this for 17 years. I feel like a babe in the woods compared to you.
Well, it's been 17 fun years, and we're getting ready to do our second Best of show. Just so you know, Christmas is going to fall on Saturday this year, and the only time in 17 years was the last time Christmas fell on Saturday. Otherwise, we've done, I don't know what it is now, about 750 original shows.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. But people love bass fishing, and that's why your show has stood the test of time. Again, folks, Ultimate Bass Radio with Kent Brown. Tune in on KHTK AM 1140, or go ahead and tune in online and become a well-informed and a better bass angler in the process. Kent, thanks as always for joining us on America Outdoors Radio.
John, always a pleasure, buddy.
Musky guides all tell the truth. This must be the reason why I miss fishing more than I miss you. This must be the reason why I miss fishing more than I miss you.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstances, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the darkest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a nonprofit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference. That's huntofalifetime.org.
Why book at Sportsman's Cove Lodge?
Why is Alaska like no other place on Earth? It hasn't changed in thousands of years.
From the way you get here on a float plane to the way you go out with the guides and the boats, it's just a professional experience.
And I said, this is as good as it gets. I said, if you can't catch fish here, you can't catch fish anywhere.
Your experience with us will leave you speechless.
Book now at alaskasbestlodge.com.
Hunting and fishing are exercises in hope. Before you head into the woods, you hope to tag out on a deer you'll have to field dress. Before you make that first cast, you hope for a big fish to clean and fillet. When your hopes are realized, you'll need a sharp knife. Whether you sharpen that blade on a power sharpener in the shop or a manual sharpener in the field, WorkSharp has the tool for you. Look for WorkSharp products in sporting goods stores near you or online at WorkSharpTools.com.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstances, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the darkest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a nonprofit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference. That's huntofalifetime.org.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. We are taking you to Pickwick Lake in Tennessee. That's where the Toyota Series Championship is going on right now. And we've got Bassmaster Elite Angler Keith Combs on the line, who is vying for a chance to take home some big money. Keith, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Hey, John.
So let's talk about crankbaits in the fall. Why are they so effective this time of year?
Well, I think there's a couple things that are happening in the fall. One is, a lot of fish are very oriented to bait and shad and things like that. So a crankbait is a really good imitator of, the forage that they're onto. Another thing about crankbait fishing is in fall, a lot of fish are very aggressive. The water temperature's not cold, and you can take a crankbait and fish it very fast and cover a lot of water. Those are really the two main factors that I think make cranking so effective in the fall.
I was going to ask you about speed. You're in Tennessee right now. The water's not too cold yet. I understand you can really rip that crankbait. What about folks fishing those northern waters, maybe for smallmouth bass, whether it's the St. Lawrence River or, Fort Peck Reservoir in Montana? Are crankbaits still effective during the month of November in the north?
Oh, absolutely. And you can still fish them fast, in my opinion, until you start getting that water temperature down there close to, say, below 55. If you're on a lake and it gets below 55, you might have to slow your bait down. But anytime that water's over 55 in the fall, you can fish it very fast. You can generally fish it very aggressively and get a lot more bites doing that. But once it dips below that 55 mark, you can still catch them, but generally you have to crawl that bait around.
Now, everybody's got their go-tos in terms of favorite crankbaits. What are your favorites that you like to use this time of year?
See, that's a hard question to answer because the fall, it depends so much on the type of fishery.
Sure.
You may go to one lake and be able to catch them on a red-eye shad, lipless crankbait, and you go to other places and you can catch them deep on a 6XD or a 10XD. But if I had to pick just one that I know I can put in my hand and catch fish on just about any body of water, it would be a square bill. A Strike King 1.5 is one of my absolute favorite, just versatile crankbaits. But it's going to be something you can fish in that, say, 5 to 7 foot range.
Let's talk about what you're fishing this week at Pickwick Lake. What are the crankbaits you're going to?
Well, I'm not looking deep too much here. Pickwick sets up kind of as a shallow fishery in the fall. So I am looking to that lipless crankbait, square bill type thing, around grass and also some rock cover. It's something I can target that 3 to 7 foot range.
I'm a big fan of lipless crankbaits. In fact, I've fallen in love with the Berkley War Pig of all lures. What's your go-to when it comes to a lipless?
My favorite is actually the Strike King 2-tap. It's one they came out with a couple of years ago. It's like the red-eye shad that everybody's, accustomed to, but it just has a little subtle sound to it. And it's a fairly aggressive bait. A lot of times they'll want a tight wiggle, but a lot of times I find that bigger fish will kind of come for that bigger, broader action that the red-eye shad has.
Let's talk about colors. Now, again, this is obviously probably dependent on the lake, and I know that there's always some matching the hatch going on. So I guess we'll start at Pickwick. What kind of colors are effective there this week?
Well, the watercolor here, it's kind of an in-between. It's not real murky, but it's definitely not clear for the most part. So I'm using a solid color. I think Tennessee shad looks really good in this color of water, and really that's a lot of places this time of year. Something white with that brown or dark colored back if you got to pick one color, I'm going to always tend to go with that one.
Let's talk about changing water conditions. Let's say you are fishing a lake or a river that's got some really dirty water, and then the same question goes for really clear water, gin clear water. You know, when it comes to the gin clear, what colors do you like to use? When it comes to the muddy, what colors do you like to use?
So in a muddy water situation, I'll oftentimes still stick with that Tennessee Shad or type of color like that. But Striking has a new color called Tennessee Shad 2.0. It's Tennessee Shad, but it has a real dark purple back. It shows up really good in stained water. Now, in clear water, I want to go to something like a Crystal Shad or something like that, kind of a translucent color with a little bit of chartreuse in there. That's usually my go-to colors.
And let's talk about the importance of the fishing rod and matching it to a crankbait. You do need a specialized rod, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Probably more with crankbait fishing than just about any other technique. I mean, you know, there's lots of things you can throw it on, but the problem is a lot of times is landing those fish. So I use a glass rod. I use a Shimano Zodius 7.2 for most of my shallow cranking. Two factors that really come into play when we talk about cranking rods. You want something that's kind of forgiving. So something you're not going to pull the bait away from the fish. And also, once you got that fish hooked well, you want a rod that flexes and bends with the movements of that fish when you're playing that fish. It's just a really good all-around rod.
Well, Keith, we're starting to lose your signal there, so we're going to let you go. But I'll tell you what, folks, if you want to learn more about fishing crankbaits, go to the Shimano North America YouTube channel. Check out the seminar that Keith gave on Tuesday. I think it's going to really help your fishing this fall. And, Keith, I am wishing you great success on Pickwick Lake at the Toyota Series Championship. I hope to see you with a whole bunch of money at the end of this weekend.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Now, I don't know what kind of sharpener Keith has in his boat to keep his hooks, knives, and tools sharp, but I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't products from WorkSharp. After all, they make the guided field knife sharpener I swear by. They also make the Pivot Pro with that handle you can grab so you can manipulate that sharpener for use at any angle, or maybe he slips into his pocket the pocket knife sharpener from WorkSharp or their micro knife sharpener. Any of these are great choices to have in your boat because, let's face it, losing a fish because of a dull hook or trying to cut bait or fillet your fish with a dull knife, that is no fun at all. Look for these products and more, both manual and powered knife sharpeners and tool sharpeners at WorkSharpTools.com. You can also find WorkSharp products at quality sporting goods stores, hardware stores, ranch and home stores all across North America. One last reminder about our giveaway from Henry Repeating Arms. I mean, if you're going to be buying a Henry rifle or shotgun for Christmas, you're going to want to have a gun case. And you'll probably want to have a snazzy-looking ball cap that you can wear showing you are the owner of a Henry firearm. Well, we're giving both of those away. Total value is $55. And if you want a chance to win this, here's what you do. Go to our Facebook page at America Outdoors Radio. First step, like and follow the page. Then go to the post thread. They're two different things. And once you're at the post thread where we're doing the giveaway, just let us know two things for two entries. Entry number 1, just tell us what state you're from. Entry number 2, let us know what station you're listening to today. One lucky person who enters this giveaway is going to get this gun case and this ball cap, which will be perfect for their Henry rifle or, let's face it, any other rifle too. As we wrap things up, I've got a quick shout out for our listeners tuning into our show today on KFSA AM 930 and FM 93.1 out of Fort Smith, Arkansas. If you've got kids, grandkids, nephews, nieces, or just a neighbor kid and want to introduce them to fishing, I've got a great event for you. The local Boys and Girls Club and the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission are teaming up to put on a family fishing derby at Wells Lakes, right next to the Arkansas River Valley Nature Center, next Saturday the 6th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The lake's going to be stocked with catfish and bream, and some of those will be tagged fish. If you're lucky enough to catch one of those tagged fish, whether you're a kid or an adult, you'll be winning some fun prizes. In addition to this, they're giving away free little angler rods and reels to the kids, and if your rod is broken as an adult, you can even check out a loaner pole at the Nature Center. Heck, they'll even have some tackle for you from Pradco Fishing, and on top of everything else, there's even a free lunch. All in all, this is going to be a ton of fun. So, Make plans now, if you live anywhere near Fort Smith, Arkansas, to attend this family fishing derby at Wells Lake next Saturday the 6th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Family fishing, you have got to love that, and I hope that this inspires you to take someone fishing or hunting and introduce a young one to these sports and hook them on nature for life. Until next time, here's hope you are blessed in the days ahead, and here's hope you get to have some fun outside too. After all, it is your country and your outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.
Are you looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here for you. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer affordable platforms to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting John Cruz through his website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Hurry, though. If you wait too long, the big opportunity might get away.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.